Thousands of people out there. Hi, I'm Dr. Venekamp, and tonight we're talking about adrenal exhaustion, adrenal stress. Some folks in here understand that better than other folks, and how debilitating it can be. I've treated folks at every part of the spectrum here. It's something that is actually, people don't realize that really that's what the problem is, okay? I think the number one thing you can do is just say that we are a stressed people. We are a stressed nation. We are a stressed world. Can everyone agree on that? I think so. We have different forms of stress that we don't even call it stress. It just is what it is. But the reason we have adrenal glands in our body is to try to handle stress. That's what they're there for. In my practice, I call them your batteries. Oh, your batteries are getting low. Okay? We don't realize it, but from the moment of our conception, as we build our bodies into something that can be called a baby and something that can survive on itself, the adrenals and the batteries are started. Now, it's kind of a cool cycle because the heart is what kind of pumps enough energy into our bodies, oddly enough, to help our adrenals have some energy, okay? It's a weird system. The adrenals sit right on the top of the kidneys, and they talk to the pituitary gland. Does anyone know where the pituitary gland is? It's upstairs, inside here, okay? It's right kind of behind the bridge of the nose right here. Pituitary glands charge all these hormones, all these things. And one of the big things is our adrenals. And when things get out of sorts, when we get stressed out, when we are running our batteries too much because of stress, the batteries start to lose their power, okay? When we don't sleep enough, when we eat the wrong things, when we're around the wrong people for too long. I don't want anyone saying that about me right now, okay? When we're around in situations in our lives that we can't stop thinking about it, when we run that little film clip constantly over and over, day after day, they say we think about the same things we thought about yesterday, today. About 99% of what I thought about today, I thought about yesterday. We can't quit running a few little film clips in our brains. That's what starts to run the batteries down, okay? So our adrenal glands are for helping our bodies to handle stress in our lives. I just read an article the other day. It says that the American people today are more stressed than the folks over in Iran, the folks in Afghanistan, in the Middle East. And I think to myself, how can that possibly be that we think we're more stressed than those folks are? I suspect if we actually did trade spots with those folks just for a week or so, we'd know that we're not stressed, right? So we want to understand the value of adrenaline in our lives. Most of us will try to find energy through things. We'll try to find it through what? What would be one of the things that I would reach for if I were looking for energy in a day? Huh?
Anything with caffeine.
Anything with caffeine. What is a huge source of caffeine in our society?
Coffee.
And who makes a lot of coffee in this society?
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Everyone knows it. It's amazing. So they understood in the 70s that, my golly, people will actually drink a cup of coffee and they'll pay like $3 a cup for it. I don't know if you realize it. Some in the audience might be old enough to remember that didn't have a possibility in our imaginations. People sat at a kitchen, table and maybe had some coffee, Folgers or whatever, or they might even go to a little bit of a truck stop and sit at the
10 cents a cup.
10 cents a cup, and it was probably refillable, right? Bottomless cup. So no one's ever going to pay $3 for a cup of coffee, but that's the threshold. That's what we've put coffee onto. We love it so much that we'll pay $3, $4, $5 just for a chance to have it in our lives. This one moment today, to maybe give me a chance to have more energy. And we do that all day long, and we've created an entire society of it. We sell Starbucks coffee now, so you can just go home and have it anytime you want it, right? And so we're being tough on ourselves in a big way. What's another thing that we might reach for to have increased energy?
Sodas.
What's that?
Sodas.
Sodas? Yes. So what's the other thing besides caffeine in the soda?
Sugar. Oh, sugar, yeah.
Sugar. We reach for sugar.
That's soda too.
And it gets us onto a cycle. That's what happens. All of a sudden we're like, I can't seem to rest enough. So I need a little kick in the engine in the morning. So we fire it up with, what's the first thing people do in this country in the morning?
Have a cup.
We have a cup of coffee. Even before we have anything else, we reach for a little bit of energy, right? So one of the first things I want you to think of when we're thinking about adrenaline and adrenal glands and how they affect our bodies, and the pituitary gland, is stress. And the stress is cumulative. People don't realize that your entire life, like I talked about the movie that we won't quit playing, that is a cumulative effect on your body. And you just keep having that sense of stress. And we have to somehow extract that stress from our lives. Most of us aren't very good at it. There's another thing in this country that we do more than any other country in the world, is that of therapy. We have a lot of people that go to therapy because we can't figure out how to speak with one another, how to approach our situations in life that allow us to decompress. We're very bad at that. Most of our country is what you might call passive aggressive. We just won't say it. Instead, we'll eat it. Instead, we'll just kind of ignore it. And all these things tend to add up to a ticking bomb inside of most of us. And you've seen it. You've seen it everywhere in our country. You'll see it on the news every day. Finally, someone just says, I've had enough. I can't act the way I've been acting this whole time playing my movie. I can't listen to it anymore. And they pop their cork. Most of those people are aided by modern pharmaceuticals, so they're not thinking right anyway. Okay? So we have to have that ability to understand. First of all, adrenal glands allow our bodies to adapt to stress. Secondly, stress is a cumulative thing. It accumulates through our lives. It doesn't go away. It doesn't decompress by itself. And so thirdly, we have to figure out how to get rid of that. Now, we were talking earlier about some of the things that allow us to cheat our way into energy. Okay? Caffeine and sugar, those are excellent points right there. I'm going to draw a little bit of a thing here. It's what I call a vicious cycle. All right? Hopefully I can fit it all on here. Stress. Stress, obviously, can lead to illness. People are less than they're supposed to be when they have increased amounts of stress. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Yes. Some folks can get so stressed that they become ill. Okay, so I'm going to write illness in here. This is important. There we go. And that can be, a type of illness that is requiring medicine. Okay, like an antibiotic. And I've spoken about the effects of antibiotics before. Antibiotics are very tough on our guts, which would then lead to more stress when our guts aren't feeling good. Now that's another thing that my movie projector won't quit playing, right? Okay, so I'm going to kind of branch off here. Stress leads to adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue, and you can as well call that exhaustion eventually. You can get to the point where your adrenals aren't working at all, and all you want to do is rest. All you want to do is not move. The thought of going up steps, that's an actual great test to see, am I adrenally exhausted? Try to go up some steps and see if you're huffing and puffing. You want to know what the number one best test for is? If you're adrenally exhausted, try to hold your breath and time it.
And how long should
And if
you
it's less than a minute, think about how long that is. If you can't hold your breath for at least a minute, you have adrenal issues. And that's like scary. A minute. Because the body should be able to, because that's stressful. Do you see what I'm saying? You put your body under stress when I take your breath away, right? There are only a few things besides oxygen that are more important. That's to have your nervous system working, because when your nerves aren't working, that's an immediate loss. But the second thing is, when I'm out of O2, I really got issues. A much bigger issue than if I have a vitamin D deficiency or a zinc deficiency, right? Like, oh, I need that air right now. Put somebody underwater, you'll know exactly what priorities you have in life. I need air right now, okay? So adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion, remember that. If you can't hold your breath more than about a minute, you have to work on your adrenals. You have to get out there and start doing a little bit more exercising, a little something to get the sweat broke every day, a little something to make you breathe. Okay? All right, next thing, we look for energy. So when we look for energy, geez, I'm a bad writer. And so that's sugar. That's coffee. Let's just call it coffee. Okay? And we've just talked about that. We'll do whatever we can to find energy. We'll do whatever we can to find energy. When we increase our sugar and coffee intake, that tends to make our guts not work right. Okay? I want to say gut issues. And we're right back to what I've talked about for the last 2 or 3 months when we do this class. Gut issues. Because when I want more sugar and I want more caffeine, I don't really care what kind of sugar it is, do I? I just want it because I want my energy. I need my energy. I have to give a speech. I have to talk to people. I have to get on the phone and do my work. I have to make my economic engine run. And here's my stress because I've got bills to pay, and you know what I'm saying? You just keep kind of running your movie over and over every day. And that leads to gut issues. And like I've said before, increased gut issues and the poor decision of having sugar and caffeine as our main energy source, which we've taught the last generation very nicely how to use as an energy source since there's so much availability to it, right? I've spoken many times about how we have such access to so much food in this country. It's staggering. Has anyone ever been out of this country to see what other societies access to the kind of food that they have? It's much, much different to go in a grocery store in Mexico than it is to go to a grocery store down at King Soopers down here in Fort Collins. It's just like, you walk into King Soopers, I was just noticing that the other day, it feels like I'm walking into a jungle. There's just access to, it's the Garden of Eden, it really is. It's too much, it's too much. But gut issues immediately lead us into an increase in yeast. And that is fungal. And I've spoken on that before. As soon as we start to have yeast issues in our guts, then we have absorption issues in our guts. There's a thing called the microbiome. The microbiome is it's a system within our guts. Okay, it's a system of good and bad. It's a system of microbes, good microbes and bad microbes. We were created to have about a 90-10, maybe an 85-15 relationship of great bacteria. Who's heard about that? We're supposed to have good bacteria in our stomachs, right, in our guts. And then bad things, or under control things. They're not bad until they're out of control. Things like fungus. Another name for a fungus is candida or yeast. Candida albicans is a very specific type of yeast. People that are on antibiotics, medicines for their illness, because in this country in the last 50, 60, 70 years, we've done a lot of antibiotics. And that goes through, and that's like clear cutting the gut and killing that bacteria. And the thing that can take its place is yeast. And that's the difference between us and generations before us. Okay? We just didn't have access, and I get it. And I'm not belittling antibiotics. In my opinion, it's the last great thing that pharmacopoeia has created. It was truly miraculous. But penicillin, at its base, is created from a fungus. People maybe don't realize that. They used a fungus as a base to go in and kill bacteria. And then we call it penicillin now. And it was miraculous. I get it. Okay, so, but the over judicious use of these things, that's what's led to what we have today. And you see how the cycle starts? Now all of a sudden I've got increased yeast, which really leads me to make some poor decisions. And all of a sudden my microbes are upside down, okay? So I'm going to say increased microbes that are bad. And bad microbes lead to more stress in the body. And it doesn't have to be an emotional stress to have stress in your guts. You can just have stress, okay? Now, as soon as we start getting into this vicious cycle and our batteries start to get lowered, now the body does some funny things. In women especially, it'll start borrowing, okay? We don't realize this, and this is kind of a funny, you know, it's not something that you're going to see at Johns Hopkins University. They're not going to say, did you realize that your adrenal glands talk to your thyroid gland? No, I didn't realize that, doctor. Yes, it does. Well, what do you mean talk, right? So this is kind of a funny way of saying it, but your adrenals are constantly talking to your thyroid. Your thyroid is constantly talking to the pituitary. They're all related, right? The pituitary sends out signals and says, hey, we need more adrenaline, so I'm going to throw out some hormones to help adrenal, help the batteries start to perk up. But when it can't do that, when the batteries are down, the batteries will start borrowing energy from the thyroid. And in our society, we have really great testing and have for the last 40 or 50 years, thyroid deficiencies. So we've had mostly women, about 85 million women now today, right now are on, what's a thyroid medication? Anyone know one? Synthroid. And I get it. And we'll tell people, well, it's in your family. Your mom had thyroid issues. So, and you know what? Sometimes we do have real thyroid issues. And I'm not even bad-mouthing that. Synthroid uses the fix for that, like if I've got a pretty serious issue with my thyroid, you know, thyroid cancer, you know, some of these types of things. That's not a synthroid deficiency. Levothyroxine, levothyroxine is another thing. What's another one? Armour thyroid. Those are the three biggies. Okay, so adrenal exhaustion. My batteries get low. They start borrowing. Number one from ladies is from the thyroid. That shouldn't be much of a surprise, right? When I say, wow, thyroid. Everyone's heard of thyroid issues. So then it can actually start borrowing from our female, okay? Ovaries, uterus, huge storehouses for hormones. Now all of a sudden I'm starting to have female issues. I'm starting to have issues where my period has changed, or if I'm perimenopausal or menopausal, I'm starting to have more serious issues than we should have. And it all goes back to the fact that our battery's been low from the beginning. You can cheat for a while, you can borrow for a while, but eventually the sugar, the caffeine, the hope for energy that isn't really truly from my batteries drains the system. Okay, so again, adrenal exhaustion, thyroid, pituitary. The last one I want to tell you about, and this is the one that gets us, because our heart is another main power producer. And the thyroid, the adrenals, the heart, the female, and the pituitary will all start talking. And we're still looking for energy, guys. We're still looking for wherever we can find it. And finally that heart will start to kind of feel poorly. And that's when you start to notice another thing. My legs don't feel strong. I stand up and I just am kind of this. Okay? Just whoa, whoa, whoa. Older people really feel that, but sometimes older people are like 50 and above and they're like, wow, I just don't have the gasoline that I used to have. And they think I got to start working out. And so they'll do what everyone does, and we've been taught to do this in the last 30 years since we've had all these infomercials and all this information running around that we need to get in shape. So we'll have people, and I've had hundreds of people at this point come in and go, Dr. Venekamp, I just bought P90X, and I couldn't even begin to pass their little test to see if I can do it. Are you guys familiar with that? Is anyone familiar with that? And I love Beachbody, great bunch, but people have wasted thousands of dollars And it'll say, well, let's go ahead, Billy, and see if you can do the test well enough to do the workout. Okay, and you sit there and you're supposed to run around and do this many pull-ups and this many push-ups. That's it. These people are sitting there. Go upstairs, wrap the P90X back up, put it into the drawer underneath the video player, or possibly use it as a doorstop. And that's the last the P90X sees. It's just rare, okay? Instead, what we want to do is slowly increase our abilities to exercise, okay? Don't go so hard. Things like yoga, things like breathing exercises, things like Pilates, those are the things you're looking for, especially kind of our age group, okay? We want to nice and easy out there, nice and easy, okay? So, let me give you a couple ideas on what to do to help yourself. Better sleep. It's my opinion that you need more sleep if you have adrenal issues. You know, 8 to 10 hours would not be a bad thing. Not everyone can get that. It's like, I can't sleep that long. So we live in a moment where we have things that help us sleep a little bit longer. But unfortunately, we have jobs and things like that that have schedules that we have to be there at that time. Because some people, like my dad, he sleeps best from 1 in the morning till 9 in the morning or 10. That part of the clock, really, he can just, no problem, always has been able to. Of course, he still went to work at 6 or 7 every morning, but he could, on Saturdays, I was amazed that guy could sleep till like noon. I'm like, what are you doing in there, Sorry, Dad. Anyway, B vitamins. B vitamins need to take the tension out of our lives. We need B1 especially. B12 especially. Okay? Potassium. Things that are called adaptogens in your life. So something naturally that would be helpful is not a banana necessarily. Those are nice sources of potassium, but if I were you, I would eat more salad. You know those boxes of salad that you can buy? You need to be getting a bunch of salad in every day. More salt, in my opinion. I've told most of you folks this, but and it's, anathema to the real professional opinion of what's salt for, You need salt because you need minerals. And almost everything I'm saying here is a mineral deficiency. We have mineral deficiencies in this world, especially in this country. We ran out of good soil about 80 years ago and haven't been able to hardly grow a thing since. Your tomatoes nowadays, if you saw where they're grown or what's sprayed on them and all these things, and a lot of this stuff comes out of a styrofoam cup. There isn't much nutrition in there anymore. And we've been told for the last 60 years, whatever you do, don't eat salt because that'll raise your blood pressure. And I've been saying for 30 years, I don't buy it. Good salt, not Morton's shakeable salt, but sea salt that you have to grind, will give you 75, 80 different minerals every time. And when people are truly adrenally exhausted, I'll have them take about 1/8 of a teaspoon of that salt and grind it right into their palm of their hand and just stick it right on their tongue and hold it there for 30 seconds. And when you do that, you are giving yourself an instantaneous infusion of energy, because in the form of minerals, and then follow that with water. And for the first time, you will have the chance to have your water actually, instead of going through your pipes and out, and I'm going potty 10 times a day. No. The reason you're going potty so much is because you're washing all your minerals out. And when you wash all of your minerals out, that's when all of a sudden my batteries don't have a chance to have anything to help rebuild them. Okay? And that's why you have to re-implant those minerals with salt. And it's my opinion that is not a blood pressure issue. And that's, as a healthcare provider, I'm telling you that I've never seen anyone raise their blood pressure with salt. I hate to say it, world, it's almost a wives' tale. It's like someone said that once, so that's what everyone says. Okay? So kind of remember that. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. I want you to increase your fun. That's another thing we're not very good at in this country. We do pseudo fun, but we don't do real fun. The fun that actually puts a smile on our face, that increases our laughter. Has anyone in here ever heard of a guy named Norman Cousins? Yes.
I've read that book.
You did read that book. Norman Cousins was, I don't know, maybe in the 70s, someone who got ill. I think he was like a financier or something like that. Had it all in the palm of his hand. Got off a big old jet plane one day onto the tarmac, and then they raced the engine right next to him. Just like, you know how the engine goes, whoa! And it just shocked him. He's just like, whoa. And he proceeded to get ill. And he proceeded to get so ill that his body kind of shut down. Starts with adrenal exhaustion, but then led very quickly to a thing called ankylosing spondylitis. Do you remember what that looked like? Susan Yogi used to have that. Remember his spine?
Oh, yeah.
And that's called another term for ankylosing spondylitis. It was such a shock to his system that his whole spine turned into one bone.
Oh,
That's called the bamboo spine. And those folks, they walk, it starts here and it just heads right up to the base of your skull, and that's it. And they finally figured it out. This guy was ill. He's in the hospital. He's, just really doing poorly. And finally, he started to figure out a couple things just about being in the hospital. He's like, this isn't a very good place to get well. And the doctor came in and says, I got some bad news for you. I don't think you're going to be around about 6 months. Because as all your spine starts to really tighten up and grow together, it's going to pinch all your nerves off, and vital things will quit happening. And he said, that's not very nice of you to say to me. That's about half rude. And so he said, first thing, you people can't seem to let me rest around here. So I got a little rule for you. And he writes a little thing. Take this on the front of that door of my room here. And it says, if I'm sleeping, don't wake me up to check and see if I'm okay. If I'm sleeping, don't come in here and attempt to take my blood. Don't come in here and check my blood pressure. Don't do anything if I'm sleeping. You just leave me sleep. Second thing is, you're going to take my blood once a day. And you people can share that blood all day long if you'd like, but you don't get to come in here and take it 5 times a day. Third, I want real food. I don't see how I can have white Wonder Bread with margarine on it, Jell-O, and lasagna. I don't see how people get well with that. And even a cup of coffee that you made a week ago, like in a truck stop somewhere in the back room underneath the toilet. Okay? So they're kind of offended. And then he asked his family and friends, he said, would you guys, he started to have a lot of pain. He says, I need a change, and I need to see if we can't somehow do something different than this. Would you bring me all the information associated with ankylosing spondylitis, bamboo spine, anything that's ever been written? So he sat there and read about that, and he had everyone else reading for him, and they came up with the idea that vitamin C would be something be hugely helpful. It's only been tried, of course, in Europe or whatever, but you should try it. 26 grams, so that's 26,000 milligrams a day. Anyone in here ever take like 2,000 or 3,000 milligrams or 2,000 or 3,000 milligrams, yes, of vitamin C? Yes. Not for very long though, right? This is so strong that he had to have it put intravenously because it'll just wreck your guts. By golly, he starts to feel a little bit better. And the doctor says, you can't do that, it'll kill you. He says, you told me I was going to die in 6 months, what's the difference? Right? And so he would watch a little TV and he'd kind of laugh at like Dick Van Dyke or whatever was playing back then, right? And he noticed that for maybe every 5 minutes of some gut-wrenching laughter, he'd have like an hour of pain freedom. So he said to his family, I want you to scour the earth, all friends and family, and tell me the funniest movies you've ever seen. Anything that has ever made you laugh, I want you to bring it to me on film, and I'm going to watch that. And they did. He says, the other thing I want to do is I want to move out of this dumb hospital room. I'm out of this hospital. I'm going to go, if I'm going to die, I'm going to go sit in that cabin over there next to the lake. And I'm going to play these movies. And I'm going to take my vitamin C. And I'm going to laugh and be grateful and have it happen the way it does. he laughed himself all the way to health. And about 6 or 8 months later, he's walking down the street, runs into the same doctor that told him he'd be dead 2 months ago. He says, "Doctor, you probably don't remember me, do you?" And he's like, "As a matter of fact, I do not." He didn't even remember him. "I'm the guy you said was going to be dying 2 months ago. You gave me 6 months to live. What do you think?" Norman Cousins went on to write the book, An Anatomy of an Illness. It's a great read. You might consider reading it just to give you an understanding that you are in charge of you. And stress is devastating enough. That form of stress was a whoa, right? Stress. We have to help ourselves extricate that stress from our nervous system. That's why we do chiropractic. That's why we do yoga. That's why we do prayer. That's why we eat better. That's why we try to not have yeast manifesting itself in our bodies so badly. That's why we try to increase our sleep. That's why we try to pay attention to the amount of B vitamin we have. Try to pay attention to the amount of salad we eat, because that's so much potassium and selenium, right? We want a lot of selenium, guys and gals. We want to have at least 300 micrograms of selenium, especially husbands. Great for the prostate, okay? All these minerals, selenium is found in your salts. It all is easy, but we make it complex because we are stressed and unable to think properly. Okay? Decrease the stressors in your life. Some of them are people. Some of them are relationships that.
You're advocating divorce? I'm not married.
You're not married?
I'm just making a joke.
Okay. A divorce from your problems. How's that sound?
Go for it.
So how do I want you to fix it? I want you to think about a couple things. Get to a decent healthcare provider. If you're out there in the rest of the world, you want to go to someone that's an alternative healthcare, a functional medicine specialist, someone who can test for different things. You can either do blood testing or you can do muscle testing. And Beverly, would you come up here for a second? I want to show the world just a little bit of what muscle testing looks like. And Beverly and I have been together for 10, 15 years, or how long?
About
10
10 years.
years.
I was thinking that the other day, I didn't know. I was thinking, it's been about 10 years.
That's amazing.
I know.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so much better off for it, I know that.
So you can actually take someone's body and ask them. And I think I've done this with about everyone in here, but this is for everyone out there. Let's move this way a little bit here. So you can use the arm and stress it. Now hold this and don't let me push it down, okay? Hold. And that's a really strong arm. Nice job, Beverly. You been lifting weights or what?
Is it really? Is it good?
It's good.
Okay.
So I'm not asking the body to do anything besides hold that. So that's a certain level of stress. Let's call this X amount of stress. Hold. But as soon as I take my other hand over here and complete a circuit, okay, hold, and you can touch the thyroid area, she's good. But the body will sometimes say, please don't suck any more energy out of this point. When I turn this switch on, this arm will usually fall and go, oh my gosh, please, I'm already struggling here. So I know we need to get inside that thyroid and start checking things. Another check for adrenal exhaustion is you stress somebody out physically like that. Hold, and that's pretty good. Now you can check anybody, and this will always make you weak. If you're healthy, you touch somebody right between the eyeballs here, and that makes that thing go. She can't hold it. Because that really sucks the energy right out of the body. Like, whatever you do, don't take it from here. This is the computer. This is what runs everything from here down. Okay? You can check the heart. You can check the female organs. You can check the pituitary. She's a little tired upstairs there, but not bad. Thank you, dear. Appreciate you. Thanks. And so, those are the big things we want to make sure. And like I said, most of you I've checked in one way or another this way. So how do we fight that here? Get a good pillow. Sleep really well. Get checked for yeast. We have a thing in our clinic called yeast redux. We use that on a lot of folks because it turns out that folks really They're adrenally exhausted because they have screwed up their guts so bad and didn't even realize it. Oftentimes I'll give people stuff called DSF in my office. It's by NutriWest. It's a de-stress formula. We have to get the batteries up and running. If you do not get those up and running, you will eventually have a catastrophic illness. Okay, those are the things where the heart really starts jumping around. You really start having thyroid issues. And now all of a sudden we're into more than just a syndrome, we're into a disease. And that sneaks up on us. How do we cook a frog? Anyone know?
Just a little bit at a time.
Just throw it in there in warm water and just slowly turn up the heat. Pretty soon it's cooked, okay? But if I throw a frog into a cold pot of water, what happens? Whoop! He'll hit that water and out he goes. But if you put him in there and it's just nice and warm, he's like, you know, he just, oh, thank you, this is so nice. And just slowly kind of let her up. Then all of a sudden you got frog legs for supper, see? Isn't that great? Okay, I'm getting on a point here. Anyway, DSF, that's a great thing for adrenal exhaustion. If within this circle of life, I'll call it, our adrenals, our thyroid, our pituitary, our heart, and our sexual organs, if those guys, any one of those guys is weak, they're starting to borrow from somewhere else. And the key here is to figure out, where are you borrowing from? Let's get to the source of where your weakness is, okay? Start eating better. Start doing the right things long enough so that your body can rebuild itself well, okay? Start eating better fats. That's kind of a new old concept. It's okay to eat an avocado. It's okay to have good oils in your life, olive oils and coconut oils and things that will calm the nervous system. Okay, people don't realize that, you know, your brain is 85% fat, and statin or cholesterol lowering medications, that's very dangerous. I said 30 years ago, I think that's probably going to wind up giving us an increased amount of dementia, Alzheimer's, that kind of thing, because you're trying to break down fat in your body in a way that is not good. You're trying to block the production of something that's naturally being made. I have a patient who has normal cholesterol. Her normal cholesterol, they can't get it down for anything. It's about 520, 530. That just is what it is. She's 80 years old. And they've been trying for years. I said, would you please quit doing that? I said, your bunch is probably Nordic, probably Germanic in your ancestry, something like that. You know, you people are a bunch of Vikings, or a bunch of fat eaters over there, you know what I mean? A bunch of healthy, strong people. She says, that's exactly right. I said, you're not going to override the body's natural ability to take care of itself. So, anyway, I don't want to get off the subject too far. Does everyone understand what I'm saying here? Stress, adrenal fatigue, I'm looking for sugar because I'm tired. I eat the wrong things like sugar and pasta and bread and, you know, too much stuff that makes me just want to eat more sugar, which leads to increased amounts of yeast, which creates an imbalance in the bacteria compared to the yeast in my guts, which makes me automatically have bad microbes in my body. Too much fungus is bad microbes, okay? And the one thing I did leave out is those bad microbes, they infiltrate the entire system. They infiltrate our nervous system. Bad microbes like fungus, like yeast, will actually get up into the brain material. And that's one of the reasons that it's a communication system. So if this thing is filled with bad microbes, it'll make this thing make bad decisions. It'll be bad decisions in a lot of different ways. Not just food bad decisions, relationship bad decisions, knowledge bad decisions, just bad decisions. I'm like, oh, I'm unable to really get this right. And the more I reach for sugar to calm me down, the more bad decisions can easily be made because this microbe is filled poorly, okay? It's a bad microbe setup. Now, if I eat the proper amount of vegetables, the proper amount of fat, the proper amount of protein in my diet, all of a sudden this thing turns into good microbes. And the microbiome, which is the name of this whole system of the gut-brain relationship, now is when this thing is kind of good in here and I've been treating it well for a while and I'm doing my breathing and I'm extricating all of the stress and I'm getting things going. Now all of a sudden my guts start to work a little bit better. Everybody's a little bit happier. And guess what? It starts listening to all the good down here and it makes a better decision. And it feels better. And all of a sudden I'm climbing out of this thing instead of descending into it. So, are there any questions? Thank you so much for coming and just listening very shortly to my explanation of adrenal exhaustion and how it kind of ties into your gut health. And all this heat, see, that's another stress, right? People with nervous system issues, they'll always come in and they're very stressed. They don't feel well at all. And I get it. It'll increase your anxiety naturally. Another thing you want to do, let's say that you're anxious. Let me end with this. Stress creates anxiety. Anxiety creates more stress. It's this bad cycle all by itself. And because I don't have enough batteries to walk in here and give myself a confident, hey, we can do this together, I don't need to be anxious, I want you to think about doing something like this, which is walk very briskly for, say, 50 yards, fast as you can. I mean, you walk. Can't run, you'll trip. You haven't run in a while. But walk hard enough that you're breathing hard. That is one of the fastest ways to reduce anxiety and to increase your potential for energy. Your body can fill that void. Like a battery that we use for our drills or our cell phones, things like that, sometimes you actually have to exhaust the entire battery, right? In order for it to have a full chargeability, the ability to have full charge. We don't do that very well because no one exercises, no one really breathes deeply, no one does enough to drain our batteries all the way so that it can fill a little bit. Okay? Now in society, we can throw our batteries away and go get a new one. In our bodies, we do not have that ability. And so, as soon as these batteries go dead, they will, I guarantee you, start borrowing from women your thyroid. And that's what they test. You'll notice we don't do blood tests for adrenal. We always do blood tests for thyroid. Okay? And so, it's just, I could go into some of the chemistry of this and make you kind of go, are you kidding me? Because who's heard of cortisol in here? Okay, cortisol is a stress hormone produced by the adrenal glands. Cortisol is, I call it a cortisol storm. When you have a high stress situation, it'll just make you so jittery you can't even stand up. Some people pass out because of a situation. They're just like, what'd you just say? You know what I mean? You're just like out, like a drop in the towel. That's how fast adrenaline can hit, and the lack of it allows you to act that way. So, any questions for me tonight? I know I'm so thorough that it's rare that I do have a question, but thank you. Again, yeast redox is a great product. Some of you have been on that. It really does walk in there and change the way the internal environment of the microbiome. It allows you to start having a winning strategy to overcome all of this fungal or yeast infection in the guts and start to basically re-implant decent bacteria into the body. Okay, it has what we call a prebiotic in it, and that helps go in there and create seeds, create fertilizer for good food that comes in later that provides good probiotic. Okay, so other things that we offer, DSF, very important to help you regain the batteries. DSF is something that is, it has obviously all the great B vitamins and things like that, but one of the things that's different about this product, and it always tests well, is that it has glandulars. Has anyone ever heard of glandulars? Beverly has. A glandular is actually, it's kind of a weird thing, but they'll take a bovine adrenal gland and just grind it up and put it in a pill. And oddly enough, that'll help us a little bit. How's that for weird? Some people are like, no, mad cow disease, not gonna do it. That isn't it, okay? Another thing is Total Heart. That's another product I use. When one of these 5 guys, we're not sure who's borrowing from who, that's why we test the way we test. Because a lot of people say, my doctor told me I got thyroid issues, but I feel horrible. I still don't feel good. But he told me, look, Mary, your blood work's perfect. Well, who cares If I feel this way, then who cares? We're not getting to it. So those folks will come in with their great blood work and like a little blue ribbon hanging off of it. Congratulations, Mary. Blood work looks great, okay? And then you'll test and go, it's not even your thyroid, you're adrenally exhausted. In fact, your thyroid is down because it's being sucked dry by your adrenals. We have to build this whole thing back up. And that's the key to this whole thing. Minerals. There's another thing, a product that I use, it's called Alpha Minerals, and it's actually a product that is already in fluid, liquid form, and that's straight out of the ground in a mine in Utah. Kind of funny. And it's got all the essential minerals as well. You don't want to put that just right in your mouth. You want to take that with a little something, like juice or something, okay? Because that's like dirt and pebbles and sewer and all kinds of stuff all put into one, okay? But it's good for you. Why is it that things that are good for you smell so bad? I don't get it. Anyway, so oftentimes we'll do a couple tablespoons of that in a day to really amp up your minerals. Health isn't that tough. We've really screwed it up. America, we just don't, like I said, we are a victim of too much. And excess has really gotten to us. It's so easy to eat so much. We don't have to make our bread. They say that in America, the average citizen lives as if we have 200 slaves or assistants helping us live. Someone to heat our water, someone to can our food or give us that, someone to give us bread. I mean, how hard is bread to make enough to just like have it for supper? Geez, someone had to work half the day to get that done. And if I had to go all the way back to, and I had to grind the flour first, okay, now it's a weekday loaf of bread or whatever. Pickle things, you know, it's just amazing how easy it is for us, and that's let us live in a way that's not necessarily so good for us. And most people don't have the ability to say, that's enough, because there's another part of our brain that says, I want more. I want more to help me with my energy. I want more to help me with whatever it is that's bothering us. We just want more. And generally, there's nothing there. Okay? So, last chance for all these great questions. Anybody? Beverly, I know I can depend on you.
It's not for me. My sister has some kind
Shut
of
that AC off for me, please.
some kind of weird thyroid thing going on.
Yeah.
She's always had thyroid issues, and she's always taking some kind of synthetic stuff. But her test came back recently that she has hypercalcemia, and is that parathyroid?
That is parathyroid. That's another little guy on top of the thyroid that indicates an inability to properly metabolize your calcium. Very serious, you know.
Okay.
But that's another name for that is called Wilson's syndrome. And they will actually cut those out sometimes to get that to quit wrecking your body. Because it's usually something that's, you treat everything else and then you finally go, it's got to be your parathyroid, and it usually is. So hypercalcium, did you say?
Yeah.
So
And they cut it out?
they'll cut the parathyroid gland out, you know, to try to get you to quit having this hypercalcemia in your body. Yeah.
I was just going to offer an encouragement. You mentioned yoga to these
Yeah.
guys. So sometimes we've had a lot of different women come through who express, well, yeah, yoga sounds interesting, but I don't want to be where they're saying weird words or that they're encouraging weird spirituality that I don't want a part of. And we have found a program that we all use and we use in our family and really enjoy. We have some cards with that on there. I would just offer to you to go to that website, and because yoga, the physicalness of it, and it's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
good point. Thank
so
you,
much
Sarah.
breathing and
Yeah. And the idea is, you know, like I said, about how long can we exist without air? I mean, you really notice it almost immediately that we've got air issues compared to like zinc deficiency, right? Compared to low calcium or potassium issues. Air, we know right now, I've got an issue and I've got just a little time to fix the problem. Yoga is a very nice, gentle way of really starting to help yourself out and to get you out of this emergency status, this emergency that our lives are. We don't realize it because we're so used to living in our emergency. We're stressed to a level that we don't realize that's an emergency level. It's supposed to be easier than this. We allow it to get complex. And so, like I said, get your sleep, get some decent nutrition in you. Have me check a few things specifically when I see you guys, and just to make sure we're all on the right page. And because you don't all come in for exhaustion, but it's really important because that can be a component as well of pro-inflammatory issues, pain issues. The body just it won't replenish itself well enough, like it should. But once we start giving it better nutrition and we start offering it something that can help it heal itself, then by golly, guess what it does? It starts to do that. You've been fearfully and wonderfully made. It's a magnificent system. If you'll just get yourself out of the way, the thing will heal. And that's irritating to certain sectors of this society because we'd like to help you heal with this, or you know what I mean, or let's cut something out of you and then we can heal you. In 50 years from now, they're going to look back and go, excuse me, how did you heal people? You cut their parts out? What'd you do with them? Did you freeze them so you can put them back in later, or what'd you do? And that's kind of the big idea, okay? So, any questions?
B vitamins, you said B1 and B12?
Yeah.
Separately, or just do like a B complex?
You can do B complex, but B12, if you're just starting in on it, I would probably head towards, the cool thing about B vitamins is you cannot become toxic to it. Your body will get rid of it unless you have a genetic problem, and then you'll have a B vitamin toxicity problem. But I would consider, gosh, I don't know, probably I'd start off with probably a 3,000 microgram type thing with that, and B1, you can kind of look on that. I don't even know, to tell you the truth, on B1 off the top of my head, but if you're nervous, if you have a lot of nervous tension, B1 is the first thing I'd go into. Like, I'm just nervous, I'm nervous all the time. Okay, B1, okay.
You said the B vitamins are in the DSF already?
There is, yes.
Okay.
And so, but those are the two big ones. B6, obviously, B3, they're all really, really important. But B12, you've heard of pernicious anemia, things like that. People get B12 shots to help them feel better, and it's almost immediate. So, but yeah, start with that. Like I said, plenty of salads and things that are green, things that are orange, things that are yellow, things that are red. Really give yourself a smorgasbord of color, because all of those colors are produced by different minerals, different things that help us be well, okay? But if we can get our guts healed up, get our yeast down, get our bacteria back to its proper ratios compared to fungus, guess what? You can have it all. You really can have it all. Sometimes I'll have to offer people some things for inflammation of the stomach and guts. It's called Ultra Inflamex, and it's really a high priority product. It's a medical food. You actually put that in and you mix that in and you drink that a couple times a day. But that is a healing thing, because sometimes the gut is so beat up that it won't even absorb anymore. It won't allow absorption to happen. So it doesn't really matter then if you put good in or not. If you have the inability to absorb, we got issues. And those are the folks that start having irritable bowel, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, things like that, because the thing, for some reason, started aiming its guns back at us, and that's a bad thing. Okay, so I want to thank you for coming. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming, and if I can be of any further service, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. Okay, thanks for coming tonight. Abigail has a little something over here for fun, good for you kind of stuff. She likes to cook, and just hang out if you would for a few minutes. Tell me hi, because I want to talk to you a little bit if you want to talk to me. Okay.